Hey, today I'm talking about 3 movies I thought were going to be really bad, but turned out to be pretty good to really good. That was surprising. The names of those 3 movies are The Sasquatch Gang, Period of Adjustment, and White Men Can't Jump. First up is The Sasquatch Game. So I went into this movie expecting to hate it. Like, look at how bad that poster is. This is atrocious. But I was very, very pleasantly surprised by this movie. I actually really like this movie, and I've been telling all of my friends to watch it because it's just so damn good. Now, it's not really a movie for everyone, but I do think there is a really strong audience for this movie. It is from 2006, and it is like the most 2006 movie probably ever. The basic premise is it's about a group of teenagers, mostly played by actual teenagers, just kind of living their life. There is a whole Sasquatch thing that's happening, but really it's just kind of them just enjoying themselves. It's almost a slice of life film, really. I think the reason I love it so much is because it really just transports me back to high school. Like, this feels like people I knew in high school, and like everyone looks like they're actually in high school, and the clothes nail it perfect. Like, yeah, they're kind of stereotypical, but really, I knew people who dressed like everyone in this movie. There was nothing that was like, oh, that's not true. Everyone looked legit. And I just loved how awkward the kids were all the time. You could misconstrue it as bad acting, but honestly, it's really spot on acting. Like, even the stilted dialogue is like, no, that's how us kids talked back in 2006. This movie's legit. And Justin Long is in it, and he's super ridiculous. He almost kind of dissuaded me from this movie, because I do love Justin Long, but his character is so ridiculous. And there's a few poop jokes in here too that I was just like, eh. But then, like, once it gets to the storyline of the girl, I fell in love with this movie, because that's where the heart and soul of the movie is. It's around her. And it's just, it's so good. It's a lot like Nacho Libre, Napoleon Dynamite, Superbad, Role Models, and even like a little bit of Pulp Fiction because of how like its story structured is. And it's just so great. I don't recommend it to everyone though. Like, I would never recommend this to my parents. I would really only recommend it if you were in high school, especially in 2006, but kind of any time during the aughts, during the 2000s. Because I think you'll see yourself or you'll see your friends in this movie. It's a time capsule. It's amazing. I really love it. Definitely recommend it. I'm so happy it's #1 right now. Next up is Period of Adjustment. This is a 1962 film starring Jane Fonda, my first Jane Fonda film of the year. Just looking at this poster, I was like, this looks like a really dumb 60s poster. There is no way this movie is actually going to be any good, because this is just trash. But I did not realize that this was actually written by Tennessee Williams, or based off his play, who, if you don't know, is a very prolific playwright. I was still kind of mixed on the movie. The basic premise is about this married couple who just got married, and they're going through a period of adjustment, getting used to each other's things. They also just met and like have barely been together at all and barely know anything about each other, which was weird. But what really hurt about watching this movie was it's just 2 adults yelling at each other. Like, they don't look like they're in love. They don't look like they even like each other. They don't look like they should even be in the same room as each other. And it's like, I can't buy that these 2 people just got married because they're like so close to legit actually killing each other. So it took me a long time to actually get into this movie. But I do like where the movie ended up going, because it's actually about fragile masculinity. So toxic masculinity in a sense. And that's really fascinating. But that kind of felt like it was dropped in later, because like the main guy is constantly like trying to be a big tough manly man all the time, just because he feels that's how society wants him to be. But he's really a very sensitive guy, and then he also has some PTSD that's causing some erectile dysfunction, and that's, you know, he's very self-conscious about that. And we don't even get to see a very pivotal scene in which, you know, their wedding night, when they're trying to have sex and it goes very poorly, we hear about it. But that would have been a really good thing to actually see. And honestly, I wish that what they would have done is basically everything up until until the wedding night, see them flirting and happy and cute and like having fun. We can actually buy them as a couple. And then once we see like the disaster of their wedding night happens, after that, that's when they're constantly like yelling at each other. That would have been really, really fascinating, but we didn't get that. I don't really recommend this movie. I didn't hate this movie, but I don't really recommend it either, unless like you're really into Tennessee Williams or you really like any of the actors in it, then it might be worth a watch. Otherwise though, it's probably skippable. And lastly is White Men Can't Jump. This is a 1992 Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes movie about basketball, street basketball to be more precise. And it was a really interesting film. Now, what I had a little trouble with when accepting this movie is that it was written and directed by a white dude who is talking about black culture. It feels weird as a white guy to be critiquing another white guy's presentation of black culture. And I tried to find some black people's view of this movie, but it was difficult to find. But I think he did an alright job with this. Nothing jumped out to me as like incredibly offensive or anything. The premise is Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes are these two guys who meet through hustling, and they just are constantly trying to hustle people. What I really, really liked about this movie are all the basketball scenes. The basketball scenes are incredible. They're like legit kind of beautiful. And what I extra loved about it is that you can tell that Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes did their own stunts, because it's like you see them doing something cool and it's like, oh, that was probably a stunt guy, but then the camera doesn't cut and you see them turn and it's like, oh my god, that was Woody Harrelson actually who just did that badass thing. That's amazing. I really love that. I would say if you're a fan of basketball, this is definitely worth a watch just for the basketball alone. It's really, really solid. So yeah, overall I thought it was fine. If you're not really into basketball, it's easy to skip, but if you are, it's worth a watch. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. This is going to be really easy to do because there's only 3 movies on the list so far. So first up, we got the Sasquatch Gang sitting at number 1 in the really like section. It's just so damn good. And then after that is Peroid of Adjustment sitting at number 2 in the liked section. And then bringing up the rear, I guess rightfully so, is White Men Can't Jump at number 3 in the like section. And that brings the grand total out of all the movies I've seen so far this year up to 3.